Hey, happy Monday. Welcome to episode 50, the big 5-0 edition of the Five Tool Baseball podcast. I'm joined once again, as always, by Drew Bishop, and we're over the 15,000 download mark. Thank you to everybody that's been tuning in and listening. Now we're at the 50 episode mark. Drew, did you ever think we'd reach 50 before they canceled us?
No, it's well, I don't know if they'd cancel us, but I just didn't know if anyone would listen. But we've got some listeners.
We do. Yeah. And we really appreciate all the those of you that consistently tune in and listen. And it's been fun to watch the downloads. Definitely exceed our expectations and the people that tune in. And I don't know about you, Drew, but still when I'm on the road at games and stuff, every so often somebody will come up and say, "Hey, really like the podcast." And we got a Tom House retweet. What was that on Saturday? Tom House retweeting somebody that had some nice words about the podcast, the GOAT himself. That was a really cool thing for us. I know we're big fans of Tom and the work he does and things like that. So thanks again to everybody for tuning in. And I know it's definitely exceeded our expectations, and we're happy to do these because we've seen a lot of baseball, and we're going to talk about a lot of big names. But first off, it feels like so much has happened in Major League Baseball. March Madness is going on. This is a really exciting time of the year to just be a sports fan. I've got my Five Tool gear on like always, but got to rep the Red Sox today. Irving, Texas native Trevor Story signing with the Boston Red Sox. He's going to play second base, although he's defensively a better shortstop than Xander Bogaerts, but Xander Bogaerts is very much hey, I'm playing shortstop. So it's kind of a weird dynamic there, but it's insurance. If Bogaerts opts out after this year, Story could slide over to the shortstop, but I'm getting way too deep into this, but there's been so many just wow moments of Major League Baseball free agency. Carlos Correa going to the Twins. Did not see that one coming at all when I got that alert on my phone very, very late at night. The Phillies loading up on guys. It's been wild. It's been all these trades that are happening. It's been as people thought it would be, with kind of this NBA feel to the condensed baseball offseason coming out of the lockout. And we've got spring training games going on. A lot of great pitching matchups today.
Well, it's crazy. I said this to somebody the other day. I'm not sure, all this stuff going on with the trades and transactions in MLB and NFL at the same time. I love both of those things, and I can't make up my mind whether I hate or love them both being at the same time. It's just there's some big transactions going on that aren't getting attention. Stuff that would normally be the main story of a cycle over the course of a couple of days is on the back burner.
Yeah.
I feel like the Correa thing hasn't gotten a whole lot of pub compared to what it normally would.
Right.
You got it is amazing how much the NFL is stealing the headlines, though.
Yeah.
With all the quarterbacks and Devontae Adams, and it's crazy. If you put your phone down for a little bit, there's no telling how much or how big of a move you come back to when you get back to the phone. I know, a couple of nights I went to sleep early last week and woke up to all kinds of stuff having happened. So, but anyways,
I was just going to say the exact same thing. I feel when I was at a couple of games Thursday, and then another one, on Friday, Thursday, and then Friday, I felt like I'd missed so much in the news world, just stuff that was just going on crazy. But like you said, my Steelers have gone out and spent a ton of money, a ton of that cap space. And, Miles, you text me about Miles Jack, and, they're adding guys to the offensive line, the Mitch Trubisky deal. And I feel like that's there's just so much. I like it now, but I would prefer it when they're their own separate little bubbles that I can kind of hone in on. And because like you said, there's just a bunch of crazy stuff going on in the NFL, a bunch of crazy stuff with Major League Baseball. I think people are still stunned about the Correa news, that it hasn't really gotten the buzz. I think it maybe typically would, but part of that's Minnesota, and it was very Scott Boras-ish that the contract was structured to where he barely beat Anthony Rendon's average annual value to become the highest paid infielder. I mean, that's what Scott Boras does. He just keeps resetting the market over and over again. But a lot of crazy stuff going on. But we saw a lot of.
Could you imagine if Twitter wasn't a thing and like you just woke up and read this all in the newspaper one day?
I don't know if it'd be better or worse. Like better from maybe the standpoint of you could just like know that during other parts of the day you would just be jonesing for news, but you wouldn't have any access to it, so you'd probably get a lot more done. But it would just be like this total overwhelming amount of information in a short period of time that you're just having to read about. The Twitter buildup helps because you kind of see the reports of what's happening and what could kind of, like Ken Rosenthal was really heavily hinting at Trevor Story and the Red Sox. And, there's some people that kept hinting that the Twins were going to go in after a big thing. But I feel like the Deshaun Watson thing came out of nowhere. I didn't expect that at all. I feel like the Devontae Adams thing kind of came out of nowhere too. Especially after Rodgers went back to the Packers.
Yeah, that was probably the most unexpected thing from all last week. It'd be interesting to know too, like, let's say Twitter didn't exist, how many of these moves would have actually happened like they would? Because you feel like a lot, especially you see it in recruiting a lot in the football world. Like, I feel like a lot of guys overreact to what's out there on Twitter and like go the other way. Mm-hmm. Like, things would happen differently and people would end up going to different places if Twitter wasn't a thing. Cause I think, sometimes it gets out that a guy's going to commit or something and it just turns him off and he ends up going somewhere else because he wants the moment or whatever it is. So it'd be interesting to see how different these transactions would end up if there was no such thing, but we'll never know. Let's talk about
it's a good point. But we've got a lot of big names on the list here, and we'll start with you. Like, we kind of referred to him as the white whale. You made the trek to Midland, cold and windy Midland, to go see LSU signing in the 22 class, Chase Shores, big right-hander. We'd heard that, like, hey, this guy has added some muscle, that he's really physical, because he kind of had that build in the summer to where you knew that he was going to add on. It was just a matter of filling out, kind of maturing physically and things like that. Sounded like he's definitely a physical presence on the mound, but you went out and got some eyes on Chase Shores. What did you think after getting a look at him and surviving the wind storms and the cold temperatures?
Well, I knew it was going to be windy. I talked to the Friendship head coach. The game was in Wolford, so I was checking in with him that morning, and he was like, hey, just a heads up, it's going to be pretty windy. And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, isn't it always? And he's like, no, it's going to be windy. And I was like, oh boy, okay. So sure enough, it lived up to that. And it kind of fell in the category of, you couldn't take a whole lot from either team just because of the conditions. But that being said, you saw Shores do everything that you would want him to do. Mm-hmm. He kind of had a tough situation because the top of the first seemed like it must have been 30 minutes. And he was on the visiting team. So he sat for a while before coming back out. But was up to 93. I know that's not as hard as he's been, but totally understandable with the weather, the way it was. Ball came out good, threw some good breaking balls. Everyone in attendance seemed to agree that the breaking ball is showing stuff that it hasn't before. So that's a plus for him. And he threw some good changeups. A lot of the times we sit here and lament over the fact that some of these really high profile guys that don't throw real hard don't get to throw changeups in some of these high school games because they don't need it. And it's actually a detriment because it might be the only thing that the other team could catch up with. But he threw some right changeups, and I'm always a big proponent of that. Just because I watched it in college. People don't hit that well. They're not used to seeing it for one. But he was impressive. The first thing that stands out, pun intended, is how tall he is, how big and physical he is. I had a picture of him going into it of being a little bit more lanky, but he is not. Like, he's filled out, and it's a good filling out. It's not just adding weight, it's adding good weight. And he repeated well for someone his size. So I came away really impressed with him. Again, I know that the velocity's been higher already this year. And consistency of different off-speed stuff has been better at times. But, again, I chalked most of that up to the conditions.
Yeah.
And he kept throwing it in there, kept attacking, didn't get too high or too low. And man, I was impressed. I mean, I think, especially after watching LSU play this weekend, he's a guy that if he does end up in college, will pitch a lot early. I think, maybe even go as far as to say he could have a real good chance to be in the rotation next year for LSU. Now, that's without knowing what happens in the portal and everything, but there's definitely a chance. But really impressed. One thing I've never seen in a game before, but the majority of one of the teams took infield without hats on because they literally were not going to be able to keep them on.
Oh my gosh.
It was amazing.
So which way was the wind blowing?
Out to right.
Okay.
It was blowing out to right.
So against the pitcher.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the sort of thing that when it's blowing that hard, that can negate how hard the guy can throw.
One of the pitchers for Friendship didn't have quite the velocity, and you could see. Now this wasn't so much the case. I mean, he was visibly affected, and I can't blame him. It was just one of those types of games where you can't hold anything against anybody, just because the conditions were so bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he threw a couple balls in warmups that were knocked down by the wind, pitches that looked like they were being knocked down by the wind. So, but there's some good players for Friendship. That was my second time to see them. A couple young guys that are pretty good. Hutchinson, the sophomore outfielder, is good. Colton Kaiser, who's committed to Texas State, played center field. He's good. They didn't wear the same uniforms I saw them wearing in the tournament. They have these pretty sweet, kind of like the Ole Miss baby bluish. I'm going to say that.
Oh, nice.
The color blindness is going to be wrong, but it's got the bluish tint. I do know that. But it was a good trip. Got to see Shores, and that was our white whale. So now we can focus efforts elsewhere and not try to do everything in the world to get to see him.
Yeah.
And to get out and see him live for the first time.
And to put our dedication into perspective, you had a rough go on the way back with the tire.
Yeah. Going up and back from Dallas about 6-ish hours both ways in the same day, and then getting a flat tire. Luckily I was able to make it to a gas station and sit there and wait for AAA to come. But I pulled into my dad's hometown of Sweetwater, Texas at about 10 p.m. on Thursday night. So, but food wise, did try a little, I think that there's a few of them out in West Texas, a burger place called Hef's.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that sounds solid. Like a good burger name. That's you hear that name, you're I bet they have a good burger.
Solid. So I instead of getting fries, I went with getting a burger and a chicken sandwich. Both good, both solid. It was funny. It was right next to a Whataburger, and I'd actually eaten at that Whataburger. It's in the middle of nowhere. But coming back from Lubbock, probably 3 or 4 years ago, stopped at that same Whataburger. But Hef's was good. I would eat it again.
Good. Oh, that's a good endorsement. So yeah, we've got Shores, and credit to you for making the trek out there. I got excited because I thought he was going to pitch at San Angelo Central, but as we talked about where he's pitching in district play now, he actually would have missed that game because San Angelo Central is only about 3.5 hours from my house, which is obviously very, very
difficult. Only.
Yeah. When you're talking about Midland and all those Lubbock and all those other places, 3.5 hours is a quick drive for sure. But I got to give a shout out to Jace LaViolette because you know me, when I used to drive around to high schools when I worked at Orange Bloods and watched football, it used to be the running joke. I'd always text you oh my gosh, this guy's hurt or this guy's not playing or something happened. I felt like curse at some point. And I've started to kind of feel that way about the senior class. There haven't been many guys that just they haven't been bad, but there haven't been many, oh my God, performances from the seniors when I go see them. It's I'm starting to think in my head, am I a curse? Like, what's going on here? Like Chase, poor Chase Morris starts the game Tuesday for Tomball, and he has to leave after 2 innings with an arm injury. And, he was in a sling on Thursday when I was out there watching them again. And I hope everything's okay with him. But, that I was like, man, I was really looking forward to seeing him pitch and swinging the bat and things like that. But I went to go see Jace LaViolette and Tompkins because, going back to the curse thing, I was supposed to watch Cinco Ranch and Katy because I wanted to see Zach Royce pitch out of the bullpen. Been hearing a lot of good things about him. He was supposed to close that game because they had a bigger gap in the district schedule. It's supposed to close for Cinco Ranch and playing a Katy team that has a lot of really strong underclass players. And it's light drizzle, might rain later, and Katy and Cinco Ranch banged the game. And I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So I text a scouting buddy who's over watching Tompkins, which is about 20 minutes away. I was like, hey, are they playing? He goes, yeah, they're still going. I was like, well, okay. I'll drive over there, and they're playing Morton Ranch, and Morton Ranch is totally overmatched. They just do not have anything close to the talent level that Tompkins has. So I'm thinking, well, I've got to see somebody do something this game, because if I don't see it happen this game, I am a curse. Sure enough, Jace LaViolette's first at bat I watch, he hits an opposite field homer over the left center field wall. Just missed another homer later in the game with a triple. Jack Little had a really loud triple. He was actually 4.28 down the line, and it was kind of a muddy box, and he kind of slipped initially. He can really, really run. I still think, we've got him rated really highly. I still think that he's a guy that's kind of flying a little bit under the radar, which you kind of look at his tools in the run and the hit, and there's some power. I think there's probably present average power in there, maybe a little bit more raw. Maybe it's because he plays so much first base for that high school team, just because they need a guy over there that can catch the ball, and they have the luxury of having Drew Markle at short and some of these other guys. But I don't know, man. There's some loud tools there, and he's physical. I mean, he's really taking care of himself in the weight room. So shout out to big Jace LaViolette, Texas A&M signing in the 22 class, for making me feel better about not being a curse when I go watch guys play. Showed some of his power. Handful of scouts are there getting a look at him. Physical guy. He's really starting to tap into that power even more. Probably a team I'll see play again, just because they have such a strong schedule and they have so many guys. It's a good opportunity to see good on good. Maybe I'll go see Cinco Ranch when they play them later in the district play, but made me feel good about not being a curse, because after watching Tomball and Tomball Memorial, I mentioned Chase Moore. I think Jarrett Curtis is kind of in this headspace right now where he's kind of seeking contact and hits, as opposed to just really being himself in the batter's box. And look, that sort of thing happens, especially for guys that are as heavily scouted as he is being right now. Didn't see him swing and miss much at all. Made contact a lot, but it just wasn't the same type of swing and contact that we've been used to seeing. But still 405 down the line. Made a really nice sliding catch in shallow center to close out a game. Tomball Memorial swept Tomball, and that's a big start to district play for Tomball Memorial to get that sweep to open up district play in that rivalry matchup. But Curtis showed his tools. I think he's a guy that once it's kind of those situations where just line one into the gap and just everything will be okay from there. But Tomball Memorial, like Brian Pennington, saw him throw a complete game Tuesday at Texas State signing. We've seen him a lot. I think that he's going to throw a ton of innings for Texas State. He is a starter to me. When you consider that he can hold his stuff, he throws a ton of pitches for strike. His slider ticked up. I know you look at the velocity, it's only 87, 88, but when you can change speeds as well as he can change speeds and throw strikes with as many pitches as he can, I think he's going to throw a ton of innings at Texas State. I feel really good about that one. The Bobcats should be excited from that one. But kind of going, the more thing afforded an opportunity for a shortstop at Tomball, Coleman Ryans, who's a sophomore. He was 401 down the line. And I went back and watched them again on Thursday, and I'm thinking, okay, like, was my stopwatch just like, was I little like, what was going on here? But he was 411 on Thursday. So there's something there. He played shortstop as well as I've seen anybody play shortstop this season, regardless of classification. I mean, it's range, it's instincts. I had a video on Jarrett Curtis getting down the line his first at bat. He got down there at 405. And like, it's one of those ones where I'm tracking it with the video. So I'm haven't quite seen the play live, but I go back and look at the video and I was like, he got thrown out by like 3 steps. Like, how, who did that? And I'm looking up, it's Coleman Ryan's playing shortstop. So really quick transfers and things like that. I think that's guy that's going to end up being a major D1 prospect, because you talk about that speed, that athleticism. He's a 2-sport athlete. That type of transfer ability. I mean, we have a video of him making that play in the hole, deep in the hole at shortstop to throw out a runner at third. Fantastic play. Put the ball in play. He hit leadoff for Tomball on Thursday. I think he's going to end up being a major D1 prospect. Cade, I'm going to butcher this name. Arambide. Oh, okay. I wasn't close. 2024 Florida committed catcher. I saw his batting practice and it's fun. There's a lot of juice in that bat. There's some, the pop time was 190 in a warm up. It's a really strong arm, but there's also a guy that he hasn't seen a lot of spin, in his varsity life, both behind the plate and in the batter's box. But man, if he gets a barrel on it, it's going to go. I think that he's going to end up being a plus raw power guy. We'll see how much he gets to it into games. Physical player. You can see why Florida jumped on that one early on. Tomball's got a couple of other interesting guys as well. Hayden Hanson, who's a senior going to Central Missouri, was really impressed with him. 2-pitch guy, probably profiles as a reliever there, but fastball up to 87. Slider was a really good pitch at 77, 78. Cade Daniel, lefty, kind of flashed a 3-pitch mix. That's going to be a guy that D1 coaches probably track. Thomas Williamson, we heard a lot about things about him in the fall with the velocity way up. He was only about 82 when I saw him, but he did show the splitter a lot, and it got a lot of swings and misses. So he's going to be an interesting player to follow for sure. And shout out to Bryson Cellier, an uncommitted 22 third baseman from Tomball Memorial, hit a bomb in that Thursday game, put the ball in play hard a few times. That looked like a guy that needs to find a collegiate home, because he can swing the bat a little bit. Physical guy that's got some raw power in there.
Yeah. And, talking a little bit about the curse, I dodged a bullet on Tuesday. I was going to drive over to Rusk to see JD Thompson throw. And I got about 15, 20 minutes in, and a buddy of ours, scout that was heading that way, called and was like, hey, they just canceled the game. And I was like, wow, I'm really glad you called, because you just saved me about 2.5 hours, both directions, for no game. But JD Thompson ended up throwing on Wednesday against Bullard. Kind of the same deal. They were supposed to play Spring Hill. So I was like, oh, sweet. I'm going to get to see him and Lipsy. But they ended up changing the schedule, played Bullard. And then the following, it was like, oh, it's a doubleheader. And I was like, well, okay, well, I'll stick around and see Spring Hill with Lipsy and just see him play, even though it's 2 different games. And that turned out they switched it to that being the JV game. So I didn't get a chance to see Lipsy, but did get to see JD Thompson. This was his first outing, coming back after a procedure that he had done, kind of a scheduled start where he was going to throw 45 pitches, 85 to 88, came out clean, looked good, definitely knows what he's doing, had a plan, flashed a couple of good breaking balls and threw a couple of changeups warming up that looked right. So impressed with him. He's overpowering at that level. That was my second time to see Bullard, or at least part of the Bullard team, because when I saw him against White House, they were a split squad that day. But Bullard's coached by Duke Ellis's dad, Robert, former big leaguer.
Nice.
So good to see him. They have a couple scrappy guys that play the game right. And they'll have a chance. Like, I know they have some young guys that are pretty good too. So it was good to see them. Good to see JD. That was my first time seeing him live. But I was impressed with him, and it'll be interesting to see where he is at the end of the season, where that velo gets up to. Cause he, like I said, he touched 88 a couple of times, but it was obvious that he was getting work in. Didn't overthrow, which is always good. Got to watch him warm up pregame and flashed everything you think that you'd want to see from him. So it was good to get out to East Texas again. And then the Bullard game and the Friendship game against Legacy and Shores that was sandwiched in between the two Rockwall and Heath games. It's so different. I know it wasn't this way when we played, but now they usually play on a Tuesday and Friday in district against the same team. So which I like, and it makes sense because then you can't manipulate your pitching based on your schedule and all that. So it was good, but it was good to see both of those games. Whatever it is, I mean, obviously there's the crosstown rivalry, but those two teams just play insane games all the time. There's no such thing as a non-drama filled game between those two teams. But Tuesday night over at Heath, good pitching matchup that day. You got to see HBU commit Baylor Bauman against Macaros from our 2355 list. It was good. It was a 1-1 game going in the sixth. Then top of the sixth, Rockwall had a bases loaded 2-out scenario and questionable strike 3 call to end the inning. And then the kind of just fell off, the wheels fell off from there. They had just kind of a clunky inning, gave up some runs, and Heath ended up winning 5-2. But then some good performances from some young guys.
That's what it looked like based on the footage we got. Pearson
Reebok, 2024 from Rockwall is a dude. This dude is he plays the game hard. If anyone knows his older brother, that doesn't surprise you. He's going to be huge. I think, his brother grew late. But man, he came up with big hit after big hit in the 2 games. He hit a home run in game 1 on Tuesday. Just crushed the ball, hit another really hard line drive that Jet Williams stole from him. It was a ball at the bat that not many people in this state at that age are making that play. It was a big league play by Jet. Jet ended up, I think he rolled his ankle, and so he's going to miss a week or 2, but he ended up rolling his ankle in the Tuesday game. But after he rolled his ankle, got down the line at several people at him under 3.7 on a ground ball.
What?
That was yes. From the right side.
3.7?
Yes.
After
getting hurt. It was off the bat, it was a no doubt double play, and he beat it out, and people were looking around going wait a minute, this can't be right. And everyone that had something on it came to the same conclusion. I mean,
wow.
Everyone looked at each other, was that didn't just happen, but it did after getting hurt too. But Mac Rose was good. Just kind of gutted through his performance. Braden made some play. Braden Randall's in the middle of stuff all the time. Johnny Lowe from Heath is just a ball player. The guy finds himself in the middle of everything. He had a triple in the first inning to score the first run. Sprayed a ball down the right field line past the first baseman. Just head is always in the game, makes things happen. And like I said, he ends up being in the middle of everything. He came in relief in the Friday night game and got the win. Had a couple big hits in that game. But yeah, Reebok was good again on Friday. Colin Adams moved in from California for Heath. So they started Tranberg. He started Tranberg and got pulled in the middle of the third batter.
And of the game. Okay,
and
quick cook.
And brought in Colin Adams from that. I think I want to say he came in straight from the outfield, but anyways, he came in and just kept him in the game, just made some big pitches. Looked really good. Stuff isn't overwhelming, but the guy competed. That's the bottom line. And yeah, a lot of big controversial plays in that one too. Braden Randall.
When you say controversy, which side are we shifting here?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, some big time swing plays, more so than controversial. But yeah, there's some calls that were debated both ways. Like I said, it's just drama. There's always something going on in that game. But Braden Randall gets on in the, I guess it would have been bottom of the ninth, right? And steals second.
Of course.
Steals third.
Of
but
course.
Slides past the base to be the second out.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Turf field.
Yep.
Yeah, it happens on turf sometimes.
Yeah, so just slid past it, man. It was tough. And then, next guy gets on, and then Telia gets on, and then Reebok hits a double, and they have to hold them at third. So runners on second and third is how the game ended after 9 innings. It was like a 4-hour game. Like,
jeez.
It was crazy. And like I said, some of that time's eaten up by, there was some arguing going on.
Yeah.
It was heated, man. Like it was wild.
As it should be. That's why it's like one of the premier games in Texas high school baseball.
Right. Yeah. Both games were sold out. You couldn't buy any tickets. There's standing room only. I was not able to sit down for a pitch of either game.
At least finding somewhere,
finding somewhere to stand, at some hindered views, but that's what I expect from games like that. But it was good. Like,
you mean to tell me they didn't have you like a reserved seat? Like, did they at least have a reserved parking spot or something? Like
no.
Could they move could they move your statue out of the way so you could sit there?
So Heath was easy to park. I got there a lot. Well, I shouldn't say I got there earlier, but they have a bigger parking lot. And so I had no problems parking on Tuesday, but so this is funny. So Heath had softball and baseball going on. So people couldn't you had to buy tickets online in advance. So you couldn't buy tickets for baseball because it was sold out, but people were getting online, buying tickets to the softball game that was going on and just walking over, like you're in the same complex. So people were just going over. Smart. But it was wild. Rockwall. So I don't remember. Did y'all play JV games right before the varsity games when you were playing? See, when I played,
yes, because
it was different days.
We did it sometimes. I remember because we'd come back sometimes and we'd catch the tail end of a varsity game, like when we came back. So yeah, we did that.
Well, so the TV game went a little long, but so I literally the last parking spot in the parking lot and on Friday, and that was legitimately an hour and 15 minutes before the game.
Mm-hmm. Sheesh.
So, yeah, but I mean but it was cool because the stands were completely full for the JV game because people were trying to get there and make sure that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they either loved it or were scared to death of it.
Right.
So I think there was a little bit of both. But yeah, no, you could tell that some of the JV kids weren't used to being heckled in game. But some of the Heath students had filled up their little section of the stands and were just they got there probably the fourth or fifth inning of the JV game and were just letting some of these kids have it. I felt bad for them, but
this poor JV. So Reebok, we're given the 55 approval for him when we do that list.
Yeah, that's one I would fight you on.
Yeah,
he was not. But I mean, the guy, there's just everything to like about him. I mean, I've seen him pitch, play second, play third, play outfield. Yeah. Some people think he'll be the shortstop whenever Braden graduates. Knowing what I know about the family, the makeup's right. He's tough as nails.
Well, I mean,
and he's this dude's hitting D1 pitch, left-handed D1 pitching as a left-handed hitter. I mean, he's hitting bombs.
Yeah, that's a pretty loud statement when you do that and you hold that part of that spot in the lineup for that kind of a team.
One of his most impressive at bats was a walk that was he fouled off a bunch of pitches in a huge situation in the game on Friday and just battled and then laid off a left 3-2 curveball or some sort of breaking ball that was a good pitch. And I was like, man, that's mature. You don't see that. And you can tell he plays with fire. He doesn't back down. He was really, really impressive, and he has been all spring so far. And I've seen him quite a bit, but just, you can't find anybody that doesn't speak highly of him.
Yeah.
Also, he just falls.
Yeah, he sounds like he's got a lot of Braden Randall similarities for sure. But
yeah, there's a lot of similarities. Tough, hard nosed, play the game right, left-handed hitter. have older brothers that play baseball in college. So, I mean, just a lot of similarities, but both good players. And I'm excited to see Pearson keep growing and getting better.
Yeah, no, it sounds like there's a lot there. I mean, I saw some of the clips that we got from him swinging the bat. I mean, you like the swing from the left side, like you said, that he's probably going to grow into a physical guy. But you start hearing a lot of times about these underclass players that just understand how to play the game and play the game in those types of environments. Like that's a big deal, like there are road atmospheres in college baseball that aren't as intense as Rockwall and Rockwall-Heath on a Tuesday or a Friday in district play. Like there are a bunch in the Big 12, there are a ton in the Pac-12. That high school environment's a little more challenging than those road environments out there. So that's really good stuff. And one of the fun things about getting out to all these games for our future 24 list when we get around to doing that is you get to see so many of these guys. So we're going to feel like we're so much more ahead of the game with those 24s. It's one of the things that I've really enjoyed. And, there's a lot of guys that weren't completely under the radar, but you know how it is. Some guys right now are more famous than other guys, but you see some of the other players like, wait a minute, like this guy's a really, really good player as well. So, speaking of those 2024 guys, I went to go see Casey Evans pitch for St. Pius against St. Thomas and watched them on Friday. The weird thing about spring break is there are all these different games at different times, and the weather in Houston kind of threw my schedule for a loop. Once, I planned on seeing Jacob Scholes pitch for Memorial, but he pitched earlier in the week to open up district play. And I was like, oh crap, well, I got to find a pivot away from there. And then the Katy Cinco Ranch ran out. So message Casey Evans like, hey man, you throwing? Because that was about 10 minutes from where we were staying. We Liz and Jack actually went down to Houston too with my sister-in-law and her little kid. And they made a weekend out of it to change things up because they were off from daycare and stuff. So we were staying down in the Montrose area in Houston, and St. Thomas is only about 10 minutes from there. I was like trying to find a game. I was like, hey, Casey, you pitching? Got the yes. And I was like, awesome. I'm going to go check this out for sure. Cause we'd heard some really great things about him. We had some video from one of his earlier starts, and man, it lived up to the hype for sure. I mean, coming out 92, 94 in the first, holding 90 in the fifth through a complete game because they ended up run ruling St. Thomas. It's not just velocity. It's actual feel for stuff, actual feel for pitching. There's legit changeup feel in there that was against swings and misses against lefties. There was an understanding that he threw that more often against lefties. Like there's a clear plan there. The slider really flashed. It popped out of the hand occasionally, but again, that happens to major leaguers. Like it's going to happen sometimes when you throw a slider with that sort of fastball arm speed and that conviction and things like that. But it really flashed as a swing and miss pitch at times. The heater had some life to it. He mixed in some sinkers occasionally. There's a lot of pitchability in addition to, the stuff and just simply throwing hard. He's athletic. He's going to fill out through the upper half. I think he'll end up growing a little bit more as well. And by the way, he went 3 for 4 in the batter's box as well with a couple of really loud base hits. There's a lot to like. I left thinking that if there's a better 2024 pitcher, then I need to see it. I know there's what's the kid's name down in San Antonio that's committed to Vanderbilt. Might be like Tristan Burrows or something like that. He's supposedly got that kind of reputation too, and I'm hoping to see him before the high school season ends. But Casey Evans was a lot of fun, man. And there's a kid at Forney, Hayden Sims, who is a really big time guy participating in the area code stuff.
Tristan
Bristow, yes, that's right. Bristow and Aiden Sims, and I've seen Jake Neely, but Casey Evans, it was a really loud performance by him. No doubt 55 guy once we do the 5 till 55 for the 2024 class. He's going to be way up there, and it seems like there's a group of arms from right-handed pitchers in the 24 class that are kind of starting to distinguish themselves. But one of the good things about when you see a pitcher throwing that hard with that kind of stuff is you get to see if anybody gets on time to it. And St. Thomas has got a sophomore left fielder hitting from the left side, Jaden DeChâtel. and he gets to the box leadoff, man. You don't like private school baseball. Like, how often these guys see this kind of stuff? Now in the Houston area, there's some arms at the private school level. Second Baptist has some guys, Concordia Lutheran South, but it's not often these guys are seeing low 90s velocity. Heck, anybody, 6A guys often don't see low 90s velocity. And he got in the box first AB and smacked a loud liner. It found a glove, but I'm thinking, well, okay, like no fear, get in the box, getting on time, that sort of stuff right away. Couple good at bats from him. I think that he's a guy that's going to have a chance to be a D1 guy coming out of St. Thomas. Brandon Hawley, a junior right-handed pitcher, big chested guy. You can tell that he's got a lot of projection remaining. He was up to 86 miles an hour. I think he's got a chance to develop into a hard-throwing right-handed pitcher. And St. Pius had a couple of guys as well. Kyle Winkler committed Sam Houston State, senior. I think he's committed as a pitcher, but he had a bomb from the left side that was a no-doubter. Miles Daughtry, TLU commitment, a catcher in the 22 class. Strong arm behind the plate, physical guy there. And Ethan McMinn, 2024 outfielder, kind of a utility guy, plays all over the place, but plays some outfielder for St. Pius. Also plays football as well. He had a double off the center field wall on the fly. Athletic little player, kind of some twitchiness to him, kind of a undersized, but some of the kind of that explosive strength. He's going to be a guy that falls for St. Pius as well. I think he'll end up being probably a D1 caliber player, maybe more of the mid-major level, but he can play. So it's fun when you see these matchups. You get some eyes on some of these 24s as well, and some guys you kind of, okay, let's make a note of this guy and probably see him again this summer and see what happens there. But yeah, Casey Evans, man, he was the real deal. There's no doubt there's a lot to work with there. There's no doubt that the sky's the limit for that guy. And, it just, people make a big deal out of velocity, and fairly so, but I always am more concerned with, can you pitch? What, like you mentioned, JD Thompson, like I think him coming out and bumping 88 first outing, great sign for him, because we know that there's other ingredients there, that it's not just relying on velocity. With Casey Evans, he's going to throw harder, but there's some real ability to pitch in there. I saw some of that with Jake Neely as well as San Antonio Clark. So fun to watch him. Standout performance there, complete game, 5 innings. I think he had 8 or 9 strikeouts, a couple of walks, lost his control a little bit in the 5th inning, but that's to be expected when you're getting that pitch count up a little bit. But a very, very excited player to follow in the 2024 class.
Yeah. Moving back to the Metroplex, I got to pop over to Salina on Saturday, see 3 members of our 2355 with Noah Bentley, RJ Ruai.
How's it feel
Yeah. Not good. I might be right.
You might be. We need everybody that participates in a 5-tool summer event to give us a pronunciation guide to their name, like you get with the media guides, the Major League Baseball and college baseball level and stuff like that. So I'll have to mix that in.
Hey, the Salina field is sweet. Like it
looked pretty cool.
We use them quite a bit in our events, but I'd never been out there before, and it is sweet. So Noah Bentley hit 2 more home runs.
He's apparently Babe Ruth this season from the sound of it.
Yeah, that's 5 home runs in 2 games, or 2 in at least in 1 week. So but one of them was just barely got over the fence, and one of them was a no-doubter. Mm-hmm. The thing that stuck out about him is he's athletic, he's big, he moves right. May have to talk Skip into letting him swing the bat a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I know we have some listeners from that coaching staff. It might be a 2-way player. They champion 2-way players in dual sport guys as much as anybody in the country. So give Noah Bentley a bat for a few games. Yeah. RJ started the game. Was touched 90 a couple of times from the left side. Repeated the delivery well. One of my favorite things is that like he just attacked with the fastball. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, they weren't catching up to it, and he just kept throwing it. There was no messing around. No trying to be cute. But just went right at him, and as a result did well. Salina's got a handful of really good players. Caden Mitchell is playing outfield. They have another catcher that's
committed somewhere. He's got another one of those names like Ty Martelajani. Like that was one of the more difficult ones that I've seen, but he handled RJ well. Caden played right field. Caden had a couple of good swings, couple base hits from what I saw. And then, RJ is the leadoff hitter. And then they have a 24 shortstop that plays for the Tigers, Major Brennan.
Great name.
It's going to be good. Yeah, no, he's they definitely have some players. I think Salina's going to have a chance to make some noise in the postseason this year. But
sounds like you've got those guys in the rotation.
Right. Yeah, and then they've got Zach Henderson, left fielder. I like the way he moved around. Had a good arm in left field, athletic. But they have a lot of guys, especially for that level. I think they're 4 now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Hey, their football stadium is sweet. Like they have this big indoor building, and they have this like seating. It looks like almost like Oklahoma. You're going to Oklahoma State, basically what it looks like. But they have this cool little deck behind the end zone that's connected to their indoor facility. It's sweet. But
Texas high school football indoor facilities at the 4A level.
Oh, dude, it's insane. It's ridiculous. But yeah, no, it was good to get out and see those guys, watch them move around, and they lived up to everything that we thought. And those 23 guys, will be exciting to watch them over the next year or so to see if they continue to make jumps. But they're athletic, strong, physical. So I think Salina's gonna have a chance, and they got some young guys too. So.
Yeah, they should have a chance. Anytime you got those two guys in the rotation, you got a guy like Mitchell and another catcher that can play. That kind of, that puts you ahead of the curve in most situations. Can you pitch? Can you catch? Can you hit a little bit? So it sounds like they've got all their bases covered. But we saw a ton this week. I mean, I am definitely glad the spring break schedule is in the rearview mirror though, because it's just that following tournaments, like trying to figure out games and pitchers and weather. And I was like, oh man, I'm very much looking forward to either the Tuesday, Friday, or the Tuesday, Thursday, or something like that. So, but then again, I'll be tracking the weather on Thursday or on Tuesday. Cause I've got a plan to go down the Houston area and see a big time matchup, but weather might kind of push me to San Antonio. So we'll see, but mentioned a ton of names, a lot of teams, covered a lot already.
What do you got on basketball? Basketball tournament.
Yeah, it's been like I saw a stat before the tournament that the opening round had more betting lines that were 3 points or less than the previous 2-week tournaments had combined. So in my head, I was like, okay, this could be as chaotic as I think, because there just wasn't as much separation between the great teams and the lesser teams, but also in those like 5-12s and 6-11s and all those sorts of things. Like it's been like, from what the games that I've seen, like I stayed up late watching the Arizona TCU game last night. Like that game was bonkers. The Memphis Gonzaga game was a heck of a lot of fun. Unfortunately for the Longhorns, their season ended kind of how their regular season went. They had a massive scoring drought. They competed really well, but ended up coming just short. It's kind of fitting into their season.
Well, I mean, it's just like they play the same game every game.
Yep.
How many would you say that probably since conference started, I bet you they had more games than not that they had at least a 5-minute scoring drought.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I would definitely take the over on that.
Yeah. I think Purdue's got a chance now.
They do. I will say St. Peter, like in terms of the half court offense they run and stuff, like it's really, really good. I saw JJ Redick commenting about it during their first round matchup when they beat Kentucky. And I thought that going back and looking at some of the stuff, I thought St. Peter just flat out outcoached Kentucky. Kentucky's guards kept driving into a massive humanity in the paint because of the personnel Kentucky had out there. St. Peter, man, from watching them when they were playing their second round game, they were running some really good offense. But yeah, Purdue, I mean, if you don't get to the Elite Eight now, like, oof, tough trying getting that opportunity again in the future. But yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, TCU almost knocked off Arizona. Baylor already got knocked out by North Carolina. And I was following that game. I couldn't watch it. But it just seemed like a crazy game. But yeah, the Texas game, that's how their season went. They'd have a really long scoring drought. They'd fight and compete on defense. They defended a pretty high level. But it's just that, especially when they settle for jumpers, they'd have a scoring drought. That's what happened against Purdue. That and, losing the free throw battle by 35 free throw attempts. That doesn't help. Well,
the crazy thing is
47 or 46-12 free throw disparity. But I saw
the crazy
Christian
thing
Corona,
is,
who I follow on Twitter. He went and found that I think that's the first time a game has had that kind of disparity since 2017 or something like that. It's been a long time.
I mean, even that said, though, I didn't feel like I disagreed with that many of the calls, though.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was I never found myself just being overly annoyed by the call after seeing the replay. I mean,
yeah. And part of it too, that disparity shouldn't happen, but part of it too is that one team throws the ball inside on offense every possession, and the other team sometimes settles for mid-range jumpers every possession or three-pointers. Right. So there is that element to it. But yeah, I was just I was surprised it was that egregious. If you would have told me hey, it was 31-16, and be like, okay, yeah, I could see that, but 46-12. I mean, it didn't help for Texas that they missed a bunch of front ends in the first half.
Yeah.
That sort of played into it, but yeah, unfortunately for them, kind of a fitting into the to the season. Just a weird season. I didn't watch a lot of it because I kind of needed to detox from Texas basketball. Because as people were joking on Twitter, Texas fans yeah, we should get an award for being Texas basketball fans. Yeah, I should try covering it for over a decade. But it just seemed like it just ended up, it was a weird year. That chemistry issues all year and just very up and down, and players, and it just was an odd year. We'll see what happens with the future then, but it's been a super exciting tournament. I'm glad that
who's your pick to win from here?
Man, Arizona looked pretty shaky last night. Gonzaga's even looked shaky. I've got to see who's still left. That's the thing, is there's been so many teams that have gotten knocked out that is Coach K gonna get his last hurrah? See, I think Houston's gonna flat out beat Arizona. The crazy thing about Houston too is they lost two key players earlier in the season. I think they're gonna beat Arizona. Tech Duke, man, that's gonna be a fantastic matchup in that game. I think Gonzaga will beat Arkansas because those are two similar styles of play. I think Gonzaga will end up beating them. I think UCLA beat Carolina. Kansas will beat Providence. I mean, Iowa State, Miami in a Sweet 16 game. I think UCLA is going to come out of that side. Kansas is going to come out of that side. I'll say Gonzaga comes out of that side because Tech or Duke could win that game. And then if it's Duke, I don't think they match up well with Gonzaga. If it's Tech, well, you see that's kind of a clash of styles. And I think Houston's going to go to the Final Four. So I'll ride with Houston, Gonzaga, Kansas, and UCLA. And then I could see UCLA winning the national championship the way they're playing right now. They totally dismantled a really good St. Mary's team. Really good St. Mary's team. And I don't, whoever comes out of St. Peter's, Purdue doesn't really worry me for UCLA. But it's kind of weird. Nobody's talking about Villanova. At all, and they're sitting there in a 2-11 matchup with Michigan. And Villanova's really good. Connor Gillespie's been there how many years? Feels like he's on the Perry Ellis plan. But did you fill out a bracket?
No.
I used to be a guy that'd fill out 4, And then it was like last minute, I almost filled out one. And even then it would have gone up in flames, I think. I would have definitely had Houston going pretty far because, I mean, you get in these tournaments, man, it's no coincidence that some of these coaches just win. Kelvin Sampson's one of those guys. Mark Few's one of those guys. Eric Musselman's one of those guys. Mick Cronin's one of some guys. They just know how to win. Like, unfortunately, Rick Barnes is not one of those guys. Like, like I thought, okay, Rick gets his high seed. This is the only time he has tournament success, and they get absolutely throttled by a Michigan team who barely got in the tournament. So, we'll see. But it's been certainly exciting for sure. A lot of chaos. But speaking of, reminds me, talking about Houston, some eating down there. I went to I didn't go to two of my favorite places, but Liz and her sister took the boys to Pinkerton's barbecue when I was at a game, and they were kind enough to make sure that there was some waiting for me in the fridge. And man, it's like, I don't typically order turkey from barbecue places. I'm just not a big turkey eater. And part of that's because I don't feel like many people do it right, because it ends up being dry.
Right.
Oh my God, his turkey is phenomenal. It's juicy. It's flavorful. It's so good. I actually got some boudin from the first time from there. Excellent. But the brisket, man, I'll put the brisket up there with anybody. Unfortunately, I did not get any pork ribs this time, which I think might be the best thing he does with the candy paint glaze on there. But and then after the little ones went to bed, I went out and met a couple of college friends at El Tiempo. I had to get my El Tiempo fix, which, oh man, got the fajitas with the butter sauce. Oh yeah. They're one of the few places that does the hot salsa with the chips. And I kind of like that they do that, but they've got that green sauce as well. But the combination of the tortillas and the butter sauce with the fajitas, and oh man. So
all right. We got to wrap this up because I'm getting hungry.
So two of my favorites, and shout out to Mio Coffee in the Montrose area. It's just opened up recently. They're a wine bar, but they also double as a coffee bar now. They had an iced breva, which is, instead of an iced latte uses steamed milk, a breva uses half and half. Woo, really, really good. So good. I went back a second time in a row to get my morning coffee before we went over to the Children's Museum in Houston, which is an outstanding children's museum. And then we hit the road back to Austin. So shout out to those places. But yeah, it's about getting lunchtime for you. So we've knocked out a bunch of names and a bunch of stuff and covered a bunch of different things. Episode 50 in the books. Thanks again for tuning in and listening. We're over 15,000 downloads. We really appreciate the support and the interest level as we kind of go around and track the state. Midland, DFW, Houston, San Antonio, whatever it is. We've been all over the place this high school season already, as district play is underway everywhere now. So really looking forward to see what happens in those races before the playoffs begin. Playoffs will probably be here before we know it. But thanks for tuning in. Until we talk to you next time, have a good week and take care.